Thank you all, and thank you for joining this morning. Like Nicole said, I'm a longtime adult ed teacher. I'm hearing some of your microphones, so if you could please make sure that you're on mute, that is going to really help us out this morning. And so I've been teaching math for adult ed for about a decade, and I've taught all the levels of ABE, GED, and now I'm teaching ESOL also. So I have a lot of experience in adult ed, and I'd love to talk to you this morning specifically about math. That's the subject I love the most. And I also love technology, but I want to say in the beginning that I also encountered plenty of issues when we suddenly had to transition to distance learning during the COVID, when we started this whole pandemic shutdown thing. So I have a philosophy on technology that it's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to make our lives better. So I understand your frustrations, and I was frustrated too with chasing adult ed students when we quickly transitioned. So I hear you if you are frustrated. I hope that by the end of today, you've learned one or two new resources that might help you and make your job easier. So that's my goal today. So I'm going to show you this strange view. I know that it's not the full screen PowerPoint, but I'm going to jump in and out of this PowerPoint today. So I'm going to just stick with this view. So these are the main discussion points that we're going to talk about today. I want to talk to you about the GED Math Test Scope. For those of you who are not math teachers, or you're new to math or new to GED Math, I just want to cover that. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the most missed questions on the GED, and I'll talk to you about where I got those resources. And then, of course, I'm going to talk about technology and some things that are free for you to use online that I hope will help you. So I'm going to jump right in here. And this is basically the scope of the GED test. Now, these topics that you see, subject areas that you see on the screen, have been taken directly from the language that GED Testing Service uses. If you want me to summarize what GED Math is, it is Algebra 1. So really that's what you're teaching, and that's what I would stick to. I have highlighted in red some of the main areas in each category. So in the basic math category, I would say the fractions, decimals, and percents are going to get people. And in this section, you're really going to need to pay attention to word problems, because almost the entire test is going to be presented through word problems. So those reading and unpacking skills are going to be very important. When it comes to geometry, and we're really going to talk about this in the next slides, finding the side lengths when you're given the area formula or the perimeter formula or the volume formulas, you need to understand those formulas backwards and forwards. So it's not just always find the area. Sometimes it's find the length if I give you the area and the width. So it's important to know that formula sheet. And I'm seeing in the chat that you can't hear. I'll let Nicole take care of that. In the basic algebra section, which I would say is one of the most important sections, the linear equations and real world problems, inequalities, and word to symbol translations. And I'm going to talk to you about what that looks like in the question area when we're looking at some of the specific types of questions. But equations, equations, equations. I can't drive that in enough. If you have not experienced a lot of the GED math, so many of the questions come back to the understanding of numbers and variables in an equation. And we're going to look at some specific examples of that. And when we're talking about graphs and functions, you're going to hear me say it quite a number of times today. It's all about slope, 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 slope. So many students will come back complaining that they didn't know how to answer the slope questions. So these are 4 basic categories of the GED math. And when I talk to you later about the Florida Literacy Coalition GED math page, you're going to see these same categories. So we've organized that, and I'll make mention of that later. All right, let's talk about understanding the scores very briefly. This is what it looks like. This little red, yellow, and green bar is what students will see after they take the GED practice test. So you are going to see this nice score of 113. I got this score by answering every question wrong. You need 145 out of 200 to pass each section of the GED, including the math. So I showed this to you simply to show you that if somebody's got a 130, 135, it's not as proficient as it might seem like it is when you need a 145. It's actually a pretty big gap between 135 and 145 when it comes to moving students. And you can see that there's just these random 113 points that you can get just from starting the test. So these scale scores are a little funky. You got to know that when you're practicing with students, you're really wanting to see 145s or higher. And statistically, GED Testing Service has put out the information year after year that the majority of students don't pass. The majority that don't pass miss the score by anywhere from 3 to 5 points. So most students that don't pass are scoring between 140 and 144, somewhere in there. So every point as you near that passing score really matters. In class, what we developed was a really strong focus on encouraging courage. Reinforce every effort with students and let them know that they always have another opportunity to take another test and another test. That's how the GED is structured. Anybody can take the test again and again. After you take it 3 times in a year, you have to wait 60 days to take it again, but you're never really cut off from taking it. So sometimes we just need to encourage our students to try it because they're never going to graduate if they don't take their tests, right? It's the simple equation. You have to test if you want to pass. So we need to encourage them to give it a try. We have a lot of students that are being successful just by practice testing because they're getting used to the style of questions, and I'm going to talk more about that later. Here's our first website right here, GED.com provides these sample tests, so you can take them if you are an instructor or a tutor that has not experienced the GED style of questioning. These are free 10-question tests in all the subjects, and it's a great way to get started. It's also something that I use with a student that's really got, they're really trying to be super speedy, and maybe I don't think that they might be ready. I like to use these sample tests to show them what the test will be like if they need to gain that perspective. Alrighty, moving right along. I put this website here, and again, you'll have the PowerPoint afterwards. This is where I have gotten some of the information, and in this packet here, you will have some activities you can do with your students as we start talking about these most missed questions. So some of you know the presenters, Susan and Bonnie Boonen. These 2 presenters were working for GED Testing Service and putting out a lot of great information and data, and this is one of the pieces that they have created. And these are kind of printable, and you can use them with students. So I put that there for you, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start walking you through some of the information here. So when we think about the most missed, and the reason we talk about the most missed is because sometimes in a tutoring or a teaching environment, you don't have an entire school year worth of contact with a student. You don't have daily contact with a student. And of course, that's a challenge for all tutors and adult educators, the attendance. So we try to figure out, well, what are the most important things? And remember, most students are missing, they are failing the test by anywhere from 3 to 5 points. That could be 1 to 2 questions that they needed to get right to pass the test. So drilling into these most missed areas is a good strategy if you are limited on time. You need to be aware of what these big categories are that students are really having trouble with. So the first one here is what I was talking about with area and volume, perimeter, all the geometry formulas. Now, if you're a math teacher, then you know that there's a very small amount of geometry, area and perimeter usually, is always taught in Algebra 1. So I still stand on the fact that this is an Algebra 1 exam. It's not getting deep into geometry. But one of the things that they really need to be able to do is find the side lengths when you are given perimeter or area. And you need to be able to deal with composite shapes. So I have an example of that down here, like a circle in combination with a square. You need to be able to find the area of those composite shapes. This down here on the left-hand side is an example of an area question. The question is, how many square feet of wrap does she need? We're talking about a square foot of this little tree wrap, but you see how complicated it looks when they present this simple area question. They have two tables that students might get distracted by. They've got all these words. And actually, I cut this question. This question is even longer than it appears here. There are a lot of words that students are getting bombarded with when they are trying to answer these questions. So being able to dissect a word problem and really figure out what is this question asking is probably the most essential skill, reading those word problems. Now, this is where it really starts to hurt our older students who are maybe 30 years old or older, because they didn't necessarily grow up through K-12 with this style of questioning, where they're layering multiple math skills into one question, and you have to know how to do multiple skills to answer the question. Testing in the old days was a little bit more straightforward and tested skill by skill. Now, our younger students who are coming straight out of school, straight out of K-12, they're more used to this, so they can handle it a little bit more. But this is why I really need to drive in that concept that the more GED practice tests you can get a student to take, the better off that student is probably going to be, especially when you have older students that have not seen this style of questioning. So composite shapes and definitely thick word problems there. And again, finding side lengths. When you look at the GED Math reference sheet, which is available for free online, students need to know, for example, the area of a rectangle is length times width. They need to know that the width of a rectangle is area divided by length. You need to know that those formulas backwards and forwards. All right, next area is slope. You are never going to hear me stop talking about slope because I know that that's such a big category. We have a lot of students coming back, and I have written this down here that there may be up to 3 questions on the GED related to slope. That's just based on talking to students. Slope and graphing, understanding how to read graphs is really important. There will be some questions about graphs that make it look like distance or things are changing on the graph. They need to understand what is happening when you read this graph from left to right. And slope is a big category. They need to be able to find a slope from 2 points. They need to be able to find slope from reading a graph. And they need to be able to find slope from an equation and or match an equation to a graph. So those are going to be some big areas, graphing and slope. All right, next one is scale factors. And this is one of the ones that sometimes it's difficult to teach all the different ways that they could show scale factors. But I would definitely say you want to make sure that students are aware of proportions. You can use proportions and ratios to solve a lot of the questions on the GED exam, but you're definitely going to want to know how to make relationships between similar shapes of different sizes and come up with a scale factor. That's going to be another area that is most missed. And then equations. I cannot stop talking enough about equations. Solving multi-step equations and solving inequalities and making a relationship between equations and word problems, words to symbols, is incredibly important. So when I was teaching I was trying to conduct my GED math class more like a traditional K-12 class where I was doing stand-up instruction every day and trying to go through the entire curriculum. I was teaching equations all the time because it's so important. And on this next screen here, I'm going to show you, I think this at the bottom of this is a very good example of why I'm saying this is so important. It is very frequent on the GED practice tests and the exam that you are going to see that the answers are not answers. You're not solving. The answers are equations or inequalities. So you need to understand how to make a relationship between these words and these equations down here. And that's something that students get a little lost with because they don't know how to define that variable. So that's something that you really need to drive in. It's not just the core skill of solving the equation. It is also the ability to understand what does that equation mean. So I spend a lot of time with students just even pointing to this part of the word problem where we see the letter X. X here, it says, which inequality shows how to find the amount X Annie can spend on lunch for each person? So I say, what is X? It's the amount. The amount of what? The amount of money. The amount of money what? The amount of money that she can spend for lunch on each person. We really have to take a minute to let our brains process, what does that letter mean? If it's a number 4 in it, if this is a 26, I'll tell my students, what is this 26? Is this 26 bananas? Is it $26? Is it 26 people? What is it? We need to figure out, what does this number mean? So we have to it's almost like vocabulary, I tell my students. We have to understand this math vocabulary. Every time we see a number in this word problem, we need to understand, what does that number mean? And I make them write it down because 26 could be $26 or 26 people. Those are two very different things. So you really got to drive in that skill of unpacking these word problems. All right, we've got many other examples over here of when the answers are not numerical answers. They are expressions, they are equations, they are inequalities. You've got to be able to understand that to solve quite a lot, or to answer quite a lot of these problems, because sometimes you're not even solving. It's not really solving. It is understanding the relationship between words and numbers and symbols. All right, so I know I'm speaking kind of fast, but I have so much to show. All right, let's talk about some web and app resources for teachers. And I know, once again, I know that not everybody loves technology in the way that I do, but I can assure you we're all having similar troubles when it comes to transitioning our adult ed students to distance learning. And one thing that I had to tell myself in the beginning, as a person that wants to be so great with all my use of technology, is, you know what? I need to have the patience to make this work and just make sure that I keep the right attitude about this. And when I have had problems with my internet and I'm in a class with students or doing like a webinar for my students, and something goes wrong and I get kicked out and it takes me a couple minutes to get back in, I find when I get back in, my students are just sitting there waiting for me. They're not freaking out. So we've got to stop freaking out as teachers. We've got to relax into this, do what we can do. It doesn't have to be perfect right away. So I'm going to try to show you a couple of the main resources that I love. So the first one is Adobe Scan, and I'm actually going to show you this live. And while I show this to you, I'm going to use this program called Let's View. Let's View. You can see it on the screen. And what it is going to allow me to do is show you my cell phone from this computer. So I'm going to show you that right now. Here's my cell phone that you're actually looking at, and this is free. It's called Let's View. I'm going to talk to you about a couple different things that you can do with this right now. And one of the things that you can do, again, this is my cell phone. I'm holding my phone in my hand, and you are seeing it. So I've tried to make sure I turn off all my notifications so that you don't see anything that I don't want you to see, which is something I would, of course, also be careful about with students. But I'm going to open a note here, and I've already started to write on this. I'm going to rotate my phone, and it got bigger and it moved over. And here you go. That's me rotating my phone. Sorry, it's jumping back to the other screen when I do that, because I'm using two screens. But here we go. It's a whiteboard. I'm using a stylus, and what I really like about this is, my gosh, as a math teacher, sometimes you just want to write. Sometimes you just want to use your hand and write. And it is so hard to explain a math problem to certain students without being able to write it down, because you need to write, you need to circle, you need to point, you need to do what you need to do. This is a free program called Let's View. I am just writing on it with one of those little electronic rubber tip stylus pens that you probably have gotten a bunch of them for free. I'm using the one I got from GED Testing Service. But this is just a regular note in my cell phone. Any of you with an iPhone already have this. So you already have this, and I'm sure Androids have note spaces also. That's all I'm using, and it's a very easy way. I'm sharing my screen, so any of you using Zoom or Google Hangouts or Google Meeting or WebEx like we're using right now, these are all online programs where you can share your screen, and I think some of you are already familiar with that. And here I am now, I'm sharing and I'm writing, and that makes it so much easier for me to communicate the answer to math questions. If I'm trying to help a student through something, it lets me write. All right, so let me get out of that. And what I want to talk to you about is Adobe Scan, which you're going to see here at the top of my screen. And I'm going to let that open up, and you're going to see a camera here. This is such an easy, you see it's already searching it. Okay, let me try to be a little bit more clear about this. It is going to take a picture of this, tell me to hold steady. You're going to see I put my fingers in that page there. We're going to cut those out in just a second. I'm going to continue here. I'm going to do the next page. I'm just scanning any piece of paper that I have. This is a tape book, okay? And I'm doing this on camera, so I'm a little bit more shaky than I normally would be. You see my hand in there, so I'm just going to move. I'm clicking and dragging, moving these to crop that page. And then I'm going to say continue. And then you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to click on those two pages. And here we go. I have a beautiful PDF. I can now email this. I can crop it. I can email it to myself. I can email it to a student. You're going to see in the top right-hand corner, I'm going to click Save PDF. It's going to save it for me. You'll see in the top, it's uploading it, it's processing it. You'll see in the bottom of the screen, those are things that I've already saved this year and I've emailed them. And then I click Share, and I can email it, or I can click Share a copy at the bottom. If I share a copy, that's, I think, the best way to do it. And I can select Mail, and I can email it to myself. So basically, this is the fastest way that I can think of. If you are in your home, you're working from your home office, you don't have your copy machine, you take a picture of what you want and you email it to yourself. You can do as many pages as you want. It can handle a lot of pages, and then you can email it to yourself. That is called Adobe Scan. And by the way, I'm showing you things live, but you will be reminded when you get the PowerPoint that you can do this, okay? So again, what you're looking at on the screen, this is called Let's View. But what I was just talking to you about is Adobe Scan, which you see in the top little top row of my phone here. Adobe Scan, it is free, okay? Everything that I'm talking to you about today is free. Alrighty, and in the PowerPoint, you have another video of me doing that too. It's pretty easy to use. I don't think you're going to have any trouble with it. Alrighty, so moving on, next thing I would like to talk to you about is Jing, and I really like Jing, so I'm going to go ahead and show you Jing. You see this little sunburst here. I'm going to just put it here on the top of my screen. And when I kind of hover over it, I don't click, you'll see it opens up, and then it allows me to do a screen capture. And the reason that I like this better than other screen capture softwares is that when I capture the image, I can use these little tools on the side. I can put like a box around something, change the color. I can add a text box and add notes to it. I can point to something with an arrow, and then I hit copy, and I can paste that image into anything. I can paste it into Microsoft Word. I can paste it into PowerPoint. And most of what you see in my PowerPoints, like for example, this image right here, I have created using Jing. I just did a screen print. But the other good thing about Jing is that you can record a video. So I'm going to just, here we go. If I click, instead of capture image at the bottom left, I click capture video, it is now going to record my voice and let me make a video. So here we go, I'm making the video. You see a couple seconds. I'm going to stop it. And there's the video that I created, which you can't hear because of the fact that, you know, we're on the other video, but you would be able to hear it. And then what you can do is you can share it. And when you share it, you have basically an account, a free account in screencast.com, and then you can send the link to a student and they can just watch it. So it's a really fast way to get a video into a student's hand. If I do these informally, these are not my whole lessons. I'm not teaching for an hour. You are limited to you're limited to 5 minutes at this point. But if I really need to like quickly explain to a student, this is how you use Aztec software. This is how you use Khan Academy. This is where I want you to click on this website to get into this. I can send them a little very fast video using Jing, and it's informal. I'm not editing these videos and making them beautiful. It's just a super fast way to send them a link to a video that they can use. And yes, this is Jing. So I see another question. This is called Jing. So I used Jing for the screen share, and I used Jing for the, no, I'm sorry, not the screen share. I used Jing, which is this little starburst, for the screen capture with when I drew the arrows on it, and for making the video. The first thing that you saw me use is called Let's View, and that's where you saw my cell phone. And somebody is asking, is there a copyright issue with Adobe Scan? I think Adobe Scan has the equal issues that a copy machine has. If you are making a photocopy of a textbook, there may be copyright issues there. It is going to be exactly the same with Adobe Scan. The thing about Adobe Scan is that you are uploading only to your own little account. It's like your own little cloud in Adobe Scan. So it is not released to the internet. I've never had any problems using it, but I do understand that concern. It's the same as using a copy machine. So if you are violating copyright using a copy machine, then you are equally violating it using Adobe Scan. Let's View, you do not need to install that on your phone. If it's an iPhone, I believe the Android is going to be the same thing. There is a button on the iPhone that is called screen mirroring. I will show you this. Okay, when you open up this, I think they call this the launch screen, where you have all these different buttons, like the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi and things like that. There is a screen mirroring button where you see this Let's View, and so that's how I turn it on. So I did download Let's View, this program, onto my computer. Okay. And is there a benefit to using your phone if you already have a whiteboard with the program you are using? No, maybe not. If you already have an easy way to take your hand and you write on something and it pops up on the screen on a whiteboard, then there you go. Now, the benefit of what I'm doing here with my notes, let me open up that note again, is that I'm holding this in my hand. I'm not writing with a mouse. Let me actually show it to you. I am not writing with a mouse. I am writing with an electronic pen on my phone. So my handwriting is going to be a little bit neater than if I try to write with a mouse. So that's the benefit for me. But if you already have the whiteboard program and you're already writing with a pen and using your actual hand instead of using a mouse, then you might not need this. But Let's View has a lot of applications, and I'll show you one later when I try to show you the math app. All right, and I'm sorry if I'm skipping over your questions. I will try to go back through at the end and address it. It's hard to read and present. All righty, so we talked about a couple different productivity tools. Now let's talk about some things for students. These are going to be things that you might want to use with your students. So the first thing that I have is a free download of the GED Math Calculator. If you need the GED Math Calculator, I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's a free download for 90 days. Okay, so you can do all the functions that you would be able to do on the GED Math Calculator here. And actually, I kind of like this because it also shows you all the clicks. So I can see how in a teaching environment, I would like the students to see exactly the buttons that I pressed on the right-hand side. But this is a fully functioning calculator. Now, I did figure out this is a free download for 90 days. I would hope that this would kind of get us through a period of having to continue distance learning and the students don't have the calculator. So 90 days, I don't know, sometimes you can trick these things by like deleting them and then re-downloading them and then you've got another 90 days, or maybe your school might have to buy this for you to use as a demonstration. So those of you that are wanting the link, it will be right here in the PowerPoint, which we will send you. I have all the links to everything I'm talking about. So this is the link where I got this calculator. And it's very easy to use. And you know, again, it's just a calculator that you can click on. So you do whatever you want on it. It's going to do all the keys. And while we're talking about calculators, let me just make mention of the top keys that I would teach if maybe you are not as used to the test. Teach them about this fraction key and this mixed number key. It's going to save their lives sometimes. Teach them about this improper to mixed number key here in green. Teach them how to use the shift key because they're not going to necessarily know how to get to all these green things. They got to use the shift. Teach them how to do the all roots key where they can do like a third root or a fourth root. Teach them about the exponents and the square root. Teach them about this little change key that's got these two arrows here, or two triangles, two arrows on the bottom right-hand corner. This will change from a fraction to a decimal. It'll change in and out of a decimal, basically. So depending on what they may need to use this change key to match it with the correct answer on the test. Teach them how to use the parentheses key. Teach them how to use these arrows. You need to use these arrows when you're using fractions. And that's basically it, the negative sign, the decimal points, if you need to teach them that. But those are the main keys that I teach when I'm trying to do a quick overview. This calculator can do more things, but I'm going to find that if you teach them how to do those things that you see here, they're going to get through the majority of the test. They're probably going to get through the whole entire test. There's other cool things that this calculator can do, but I kind of focus on the things that I think they really need. Alrighty. So now I'm going to go through a couple more links for students, and some of these are pretty self-explanatory, and I know some of you probably already know about these, so I'll just go through one by one here, and I'm going to switch over to the other screen to just show you this live. Got so much stuff open here, so here we go. All right, once again, this is how you download that calculator. You will see at the top, Windows and Mac. Okay, and you have the link in the presentation so you don't have to remember it. All right, IXL is a program that I really love. When you go to learning, you have a ton of practice problems. Math is their flagship. You can probably never get through all of these. I'm going to go ahead and pick a section. I'm going to go ahead and pick 8th grade. I find for the GED prep, you're going to want to stick between 6th grade and Algebra 1. And what I really like about this, let's see if I can pick a cool one here, is they just have these one-by-one practice activities where you can practice one question at a time. So I used to use this in class a lot because if I'm teaching something about graphing, I for sure do not want to take a ton of time to try to create these graphs in a PowerPoint presentation for my students. That would just take me forever. But what this does is it allows you to click and drag. It allows you to answer questions interactively. And students can practice this on their own, or you can project these on your board or share the screen and walk through some of these problems with students. And here you go, their problems are already there, and they have basically all the topics that you would need. So this question says, which quadrant is at the point R in? Which quadrant is the point R in? So you got R here, that's 2, right? So I'm gonna get it wrong. I'm gonna say 4. And just to show you that when you get it wrong, we know this is wrong. This is not 4, this is not the 4th quadrant. I'm gonna submit it, and it's gonna say, sorry, you're wrong. It's quadrant 2. And then it gives you a little bit of an explanation, and it reminds you what you said, and it shows you what's correct. So that's why I really like it. And students can practice 10 questions per day without an account. They can do it for free. After that, this program wants you to buy the membership, which you could do. But if you close this and clear the internet browsing history, you have to close this first, clear the history, then students can practice 10 more. So sometimes I have them do that if I want them to practice more than 10. Or sometimes if it's like homework or I just taught something, I just let them do 10 and I say, okay, after 10 questions, that'll be enough. So IXL, really great program, has everything that you need for math. Another one is going to be CUDA software, which I think every math teacher under the sun knows about. We got pre-algebra and algebra 1 worksheets here and geometry, but you're probably gonna stick to pre-algebra and algebra 1. You click on it, they're all organized, and you can click on any worksheet. I'll just pick one, and it's going to give you a bunch of practice questions, usually 2 pages of questions, and then it gives you 2 pages of the answer. So you print it, you can download it, you can email it. It makes it so easy to use these materials. So this is a great website. So that's CUDA software. And then, let me get here, Common Core Sheets is another one where you have all of these ABE resources, goes down to simple addition. It addresses a lot of levels, and you can select worksheets. Usually they have 10 versions of the same worksheet. So if you like this matching addition worksheet, you can download 10 versions of them for your students if you want your students to have a ton of practice. You can also view them one at a time, and that's another time where you have it displayed on the screen, and then you can go through it with students. This is something you could screen share. I hope I get this right since I'm doing it quickly. You can screen share and go through one question at a time with your students instead of recreating anything on a PowerPoint, which costs you a lot of time. So that's Common Core Sheets and CUDA software and IXL. I love those 3 websites. I really feel like those 3 are going to get you so far into this math curriculum, you'll never get through those 3 websites. Alrighty, another website that will be included in the PowerPoint, they all will be included in the PowerPoint, is this virtual manipulatives software. And here you've got algebra tiles that you can click and drag in if you wanted to show that. This is a whiteboard space where you can write on it. Now this is me writing with my mouse, so it's not as beautiful of handwriting. I like the kind of the funniness of some of this. This is really made for kids, but here we go. I can ask a probability question. All right, so there's all these bears, they're in a boat. If one of them falls out, what's the chance that it's a yellow one? This is the online Manipulatives website that I am using, and it's a Flash-based website where you just have all these different, you have the base 10 blocks if you want those, and there's also this button down here in the right where you can print the screen. So if you wanted to print out tangrams or base 10 blocks or something, you could print them out. You can screen print them. There's so many different resources in here that you can use, and they're basically an electronic version of Manipulators. And once again, all of this information is in the website. So this one is the one that I just showed, is this online Manipulatives, and you have all the websites here. So I'm sorry, all this information will be in the PowerPoint, and you will get this PowerPoint. Alrighty, next, let's talk about this GED Math Videos page. And this was something I worked on with Florida Literacy Coalition. And I told you in the beginning that there are those big categories of math as far as the GED language. They use basic math, basic algebra, graphs and functions, and geometry. Those are some big categories of math. So if you go to this website, floridaliteracy.org/math videos, don't worry, you have this website in the PowerPoint. You have all the websites in the PowerPoint. You will see these videos broken down into sections. So if I click on basic algebra, because you know I'm going to say that's one of the most important ones, you'll see all these different subsections. And when you click on a subsection, you see all these different Khan Academy videos. So what's really good about this is that you are going to be able to focus your energy on specifically the Khan Academy videos that are going to apply to the GED Math. Khan Academy is such an incredible resource, but it's got so much in it, you can get lost in there. These videos are going to be aligned to the FLDOE GED standard. So they're really going to be focused on what is on the GED Math. And then at the bottom of each section, you're going to find a quiz. When you open that quiz, it's going to be a Google form. And that is written more of a GED style. So, you know, a lot of students will be in class and they'll say, well, you didn't teach me anything that was on the test. Well, yes, you did. They just maybe didn't recognize it because they didn't understand the style of questioning where GED puts multiple different types of math together into one question. So in these quizzes, you are going to see more of that GED style experience where there's a lot of word problems, there are expressions or equations as answers, and that is the purpose of these quizzes. Now, since I'm talking about this website, I also want to talk to you about the new exciting project that we just launched, which is the app version of this website. And yes, you can print the quiz as it would be page by page that you would print it. Of course, if you don't print those quizzes, they are interactive and they do grade themselves. But if you really wanted a printed copy, you could print it. So anyway, so that website led us to develop this app, and this was a really awesome collaboration between Crowded Learning and Florida Literacy Coalition, and I was lucky enough to be able to work on this project. And this is the same thing in an app version, because we know students do not have those phones at home. I'm sorry, they don't have computers at home. Yes, I understand. Some of you are working in the prison systems and you're not able to use technology. So yes, you would be able to print. Also, if you're working in the prison systems, you might really like
Rebecca, I think we just lost you. Can't hear your audio anymore. Hang tight, everyone. We'll try and get Rebecca back up and running.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that, you guys. It's, it is what it is with the internet these days. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So anyway, pick up where I left off. Let me go back to the app. So what's really cool about this app is that when you are on the list of different videos, you can check off what you have already completed and it will track you. So under this completed section, you can see it for your students, or your students can see what they have already completed. And again, in this same app, at the bottom of each of the subsections, let me go back there, you're going to see the same quizzes. And those quizzes will open on their phones, and they can do everything from their phones. So we've got that option also. All right, let me get, sorry, I need to just get some of this set back up. All righty. So that is going to be the main web resources that I have mentioned here, in addition to those productivity tools. And in the rest of this PowerPoint, you are just going to see just pictures of the same resources. So for those of you that are getting the PowerPoint, you just have pictures of the resources that I just discussed. And at this point, I am finished with the majority of the content that I have to discuss, but I would love to keep it open for questions. I'm going to put my email on the screen just in case you have any questions after the fact. I'd be happy to respond to you. And I may have missed some of your questions. So if I missed it, you're going to have to retype it. I lost all the questions when I got disconnected. So if go ahead.
Rebecca, I have some questions here that I can ask for you. I can still see the chat. So let's see. So someone is asking, is Let's View better than, oh, I'm sorry. Is Adobe Scan better than Office Lens? Have you heard of Office Lens?
So there are quite a number of them out there. If you're already comfortable with one of them, then I would stick with that. There are a bunch of these scanning products. I just found the Adobe one, and that's the one I talk about. Whatever one's free, that's the good
one. We also have a question here. Does Let's View work with Android and iPhones?
Yes, what I was using it with was an iPhone. If you have an Android, it will also work. Let's View is supposed to allow you to show any mobile device on your computer screen very easily. It took me about 3 or 4 minutes to set Let's View up. You just download it and it's basically ready to go from the phone.
All right. Let's see. Can you add text and images in the video in Jing?
To do that, so if you were recording something where you had the image on the screen, then you could obviously record it. But to add things in after the fact, you're going to probably need to pay through Screencast because they do have video editing features, but not that I've seen in the free version. So I would consider that to be a tool more for informal, fast videos that are very short and instructional. If you're looking for more of a video editing, you're going to be better off with a different software.
All right, and we had a question here that was actually answered by another participant. I just want to make sure that it's read out loud. Big problem with WIXL, it shows the grade level, so students can actually see that they are working on a 3rd grade level. For example, should we just use higher levels? And another participant mentioned that you can hide the grade level through settings so the students can't see it.
And I have never actually tried to hide the grade level, so I was wondering if that requires the account, because IXL wants an account. However, one of the things that I do, I never try to use the G word with my adult students. I don't want to draw anybody's attention to what's 3rd grade or 2nd or anything. But what I say is, you know what? We have you seen 5th grade math lately? It's really hard, okay? So there are plenty of parents that struggle to teach their children this math. Math has changed, so don't worry what the level says, because trust me, it's going to be difficult no matter what grade level it says. I just try to, just get them to stop paying attention to that. But let me see.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. No, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to ask another. Yeah, just going to ask another question here. Do you download Let's View to your phone or computer?
You do not need to do that. So what I have done, this is what happens, and I will try to demonstrate this. Let's View. Let me open this back up. Let's View gets downloaded to the computer. I think I just said you don't have to do that. You do have to download Let's View to your computer, okay? You do not need to download it to your phone. When you downloaded it to your computer and you open it, this is what it says. So now on my iPhone, what I do is I go to screen mirroring, and it's going to be different phone by phone. All right. So what you're looking at on the right-hand side of the screen is actually my phone. This is what my phone shows. And this box has also popped up on the computer. So what I have done is I have opened up this little settings area where you can turn your Wi-Fi on and off and your Bluetooth. And there is a button here that says screen mirroring. It doesn't say it right now because right now it says Let's View because I'm connected to Let's View. So somewhere in your iPhone, you will have to enable screen mirroring, and that is what you are doing. And it's going to be the same for Android, but I can't tell you about every different device because I don't have them. But I can, if you really do have a question about this and you can't get it to work, let me know. I will look it up for you and I will figure it out for you on a case-by-case basis. All right, I'm seeing another question about the math videos Florida literacy page. So again, we are definitely going to give you this PowerPoint that's got all the links in it, but I will show you it's right here, floridaliteracy.org/math videos. And if you would like the app on your phone, you do gedmath.glideapp.io. I think, and Nicole, you might be able to help with getting to it straight from the Florida literacy page. What I always do is I always Google just Florida Literacy Coalition GED Math page. That's what I do. It takes me to it. So we'll have those links in the presentation for you. All right, did I miss any questions, Nicole, do you think?
I think you got most of it.
Oh, we have a question about Jing expiring in July. It's being replaced with TechSmith Capture, which is another free thing, and it works almost exactly the same. I've already downloaded it. So whichever one you want to grab at this point, they're both there and they're both free and they're both very similar. Jing is not actually expiring. What's happening is Flash is going away. Some of you know about that. So Jing runs on Flash, and so that's why Jing has to go away, because Flash is no longer getting supported. So that's long story short. All righty. Any more questions from any of you that you can think of or you'd like to chat about before we go? The other program like Jing is called TechSmith Capture, and I will type that in the box. Actually, if you Google Jing, or if you go to the website for Jing, you are going to see TechSmith Capture, because it is the same thing now. It is basically the new version of Jing. So if I just Google Jing, I'm going to find it. TechSmith is the company that makes Jing. So you're going to see both on the same web page, and I'm showing you now. You see this free download. It's for TechSmith Capture, formerly Jing. If you want Jing, because I showed it to you, you can scroll down and it says down here, still looking for Jing, and you can download. Both are free. TechSmith Capture is actually the upgraded version, and you can make longer videos. So you may want to just adapt to that one. Yes, I doubt you could teach online without using Jing. I use Jing during my regular class instruction, during the normal school year, and online. I use it, I would say, every day, all day. I just always use it. And the other thing that I really like about Jing is, again, you see the little starburst up here. Let me clear some of this out so you can see it better. It also has a history. So if I have made a screen print of a page in the book, or these are all the lessons that I've been working on with my students, or I made a screen print for this presentation, it's all there in the history. So it makes it easy for me to get back to it when I need to use it again. It's a lot of times with instructional videos for students, I'll lose them and then I need to find them again, and here they are. They're all here in this history. So I really like that about Jing. Alrighty, well, if there are any more questions, we're happy to stay here. If not, I really want to thank all of you for joining today. And I wish you the best of luck as we continue to go on this COVID journey. I'm really hoping that we're back in school where we belong in August. But if we're not, then just, keep your spirits up and remember that there's plenty of technology out there. Use all of it, use what you want to use what you're comfortable with. And just keep an open mind. Don't worry about your students, because they are patient. They're more patient than we are. They will wait for you, and we can get through this together.
All right, thank you all for joining us today. As I said at the beginning of the webinar, you will be receiving this presentation along with the video probably on Friday or Monday. We have a quick survey that we'd like to ask you to fill out. We use these surveys to kind of inform what we put out there for you guys as professional development, so please fill it out. And you can also get the certificate of completion if you fill out the survey. I did want to tell you all, if you don't already know, so the app that Rebecca had mentioned, the GED Math app, is on our website, and we have a video to the app launch, so you can learn more about it on our website. It's on Literacy News. All right, so with that, I would like to thank you all for coming and have a great rest of your day.